Hey everyone, today I have a budget smartwatch for y'all, and if you're like me, you don't want to spend upwards of hundreds of dollars just to basically track your steps, track your sleep, and maybe a couple other message notifications from your phone, then this might be something you want to consider. So first off, just starting off with what comes out of the packaging. So the main three things are the instruction manual, which also runs through the features and functionality of the device, as well as directs you to the appropriate app to download. And it also, of course, has the watch itself with the silicone band, and it also has the charging cable, which is proprietary, as you can see here. So the way to charge it is you plug in the other end, which is a full-size USB port, and then you just have to clamp it properly on the two metal dots on the back of the watch, as you can see here. Would have preferred something like a magnet for easier application, but it does get the job done. Battery life ranges, I would say, from 2 to 4 days, depending on how much you use the screen time. So just running through the hardware features of this watch, it has a 1.3 inch color display that's a 1-point finger touch for navigating through the interface, and I would say that this size is pretty good to allow you to see the information that you need without being too bulky. As you can see, I have a pretty narrow wrist and it looks pretty fine. The other feature here is the hardware button on the right that allows you to basically return to the previous screen and also wake and sleep the watch. The back pulses light for sensing heart rate as well as blood pressure and blood oxygen, which I'll get to in a little bit later. The one feature I found that I liked particularly was actually the removable silicone strap, because it features a lot of holes. You can see even on my narrow wrist I have extra holes to spare if I wanted a tighter fit. So I do like that flexibility, and it does have two loops to help secure the strap a little bit better, though I did find that with rigorous activity some of the loops still would come undone anyways. But otherwise, I really like the physical design of this watch. Now moving on to the software interface, which is very important, as you can imagine. So once again, the physical button on the right, if you long press it, will turn it on or turn it off, depending on what state it is in. And you're first greeted with the main watch face. If you were to swipe towards the left, so you'll bring up kind of the right feature, which is a heart rate monitor at a quick glance. If you swipe to the right, you will bring up your latest 2 messages that you had received, but there are a lot of limitations to this. For example, you can't see emojis, and if the text is too long, you only get the tail end of the text, which really won't make any sense, as I'm demonstrating right here. So this is mainly just to notify you that you got a message on your phone, and should probably check your phone to read the actual message. Swiping downwards will actually bring up a couple of shortcuts. They're not particularly helpful in my opinion. There's a do not disturb icon, which is a little bit confusing to use. Don't really use it at all. And the middle one is a flashlight feature per se, which is basically just turning the whole display into a white color. The screen brightness isn't even that bright, so I can't imagine why you would ever use this. But then speaking of screen brightness, you can actually toggle the screen brightness to the last icon on the right here, which is definitely useful. And then if you were to swipe upwards from the main home screen, you'll bring up all the other built-in features and apps in this watch. So the first one is simply just a more detailed look at your step count. And then you can also check your messages once again. And there's also, you can see how much sleep you got, light sleep, deep sleep. But I actually found that this feature doesn't work very consistently, at least on my model. A lot of times I saw it just zeroed out, even though I definitely wore it to sleep. So there definitely could be some software improvements on this end. And then you break down to the 3 types of monitoring that it's able to do: heart rate, blood pressure, as well as blood oxygen level. All 3 of them are not particularly accurate nor precise from my test. As you can see here, I'm just taking a heart rate test while I am resting. I have not done any rigorous activity so far, and it's reading a pretty high heart rate. So I wouldn't really use this data at all. But moving on to the next 3 set of features, you can track certain sports. What it really does is just track the activity time that you use to do that sport. You have to manually start and end the activity, and it will transfer to the app, which I'll show you in just a bit. Not particularly helpful in my opinion. In fact, the next few features are also kind of more on the gimmicky side than useful. And the next icon is for camera. Now this is probably the most gimmicky thing I've seen on this watch. To use this, you have to open their app, go to this Shake Photos a part of the app, and then you literally have to shake your wrist or shake the watch in order to take a photo. You can't even take a video or adjust exposure or anything because it's in their app and you can't use any other application to do this. And the crazy thing is there's not only a lag, but there's no way to know if you actually did it properly and took the photo from the watch. I would think the only time you would want to use this feature if you wanted to take a group photo, prop that phone up somewhere far away, and then shake your wrist or use the watch to take a photo. But as you can see, execution is pretty darn terrible here, so I don't think anybody would ever use this feature. The next one is for music, and people might use this feature, and you can't control volume here, but you can control pause and play, skip, and reverse tracks. The next three I don't really mess with unless they get resetted sometimes when I recharge the watch. That is gesture, which is whether the screen would turn on if you were to tilt the watch face, which I don't think is necessary because you can already turn it on by either using the physical button or even just tapping the screen. And sometimes I do have ghost taps that I accidentally turn on the screen anyways. And then the next one is countdown timer. As you can see, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can set it for hours and minutes, not seconds unfortunately, and it will just count down. And the next one is for screen on time. You probably don't need to adjust this too much. Definitely don't make it any less than 5 seconds. Next one is stopwatch, but it's really limited because you can't even lap, so you only can start and stop it. Next one is even more useless, which is find your phone, but the only way for it to work is if you have the app open on your phone and it's within range of the watch. And if those two conditions are met, then if you tap your watch, then it will buzz or chime your phone. But I highly doubt those two conditions will usually be met if you truly lost your phone. And finally, settings is just simply if you want to shut down the watch completely, reset the settings altogether, or take a look at the software update that the watch is on. And finally, the last thing you can do with this interface on the watch is if you long press on the home watch face, you're able to change between 12 different watch faces. I picked this one not because I love the design, but more like I can see the most information at a glance. So my suggestion to them is to create more customizable watch faces that has more information on it. Now, data information is not limited to just on the watch itself. You can download the companion app from the App Store or the Google Play Store, so you can kind of monitor trends over time. And it also is able to toggle a few more settings that you're not able to do so right from the watch face. It also does have the ability to transfer some of your data to, say, Apple Health or your WeChat Sport, but it's really limited in the ways that you can share it via social media or anything like that. So I find the app pretty lackluster. It has a clunky interface to navigate through. It doesn't really offer any additional features beyond the watch interface itself. The only thing it really offers is just trending data. The last thing I want to talk about is its water resistance level, which is IP68, which means it's really only suitable for light splashes, maybe in the rain, or if you wash your hands. Definitely not showering or submersion of water of any kind. I unfortunately found it the hard way when the listing had originally said that you could swim with it, but to my experience, you cannot. My watch was dead after one simple swim. So definitely this is only for water resistance, not waterproofing. The bottom line, here are the pros and cons that are broken out after my extensive testing with this watch. I don't think it's a terrible watch, all things considered, as I have tested similar priced watches, but I think there are a lot of software additions that are really not honed in, perfected at all, that really weighs down this watch at this price point. I think if they could fine-tune the stuff that they do well, maybe improve the battery life, make the gimmicky functions less gimmicky, or add more useful functions, then this would be a great recommendation. So it really would depend on what you truly value. So once again, if you are interested in this product or would like to look at it in further detail, I'll have the product link in the description.